I wasn't going to set you up for a surprise. Haha, we're recording on this one. I didn't really know how to because we were talking about what we were going to talk about in the episode anyway. So I'm not. There's no point talking about that and then leading in and then talking about it again. So anyway, without further ado, welcome back to the Dreadcast, one and all. And we have. It's not even a special guest anymore. Not even a special guest host.
Been upgraded.
It's 1/3 of the trio taking the reins again this week, and probably for quite a while until T's kid turns 18 and moves out. So for the next 18 years, welcome, Aidan.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be back. As I can't believe it. It's been a week already, and we're back. I've been looking forward to this. I hope you've been thinking real hard about horror for the last 7 days, like I have been in prep for today.
Man, I have, and I've been writing my bullet point notes, but then each bullet point has kind of gone off in a tangent, and that one's gone off in a. And just a heads up, folks. So today's episode, we're not actually discussing the film, as you can probably see from the title or the thumbnail. Today's episode is quite simply what scares you in horror, and that's a vague you. That's you, Aidan. That's me. We've asked people on social medias. I did it on my personal Facebook.
The royal you.
The royal you. One thing just before we get into that, do follow us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, and YouTube, all by searching the Dreadcast. Do give it a nice, the old thumbs up and 5-star rating, even if you don't like it, but that's impossible because it's a great episode. It's a great show, so do give it a 5-star rating. It all helps with the podcast.
And share with your friends. Let people know.
And if you haven't got any friends, go into the street and just start hollering it.
Just start shouting,
knocking on doors. Like, it's fine. We'll let it happen. We tell you it's okay to do that. I think that's the boring stuff out of the way. So yeah, today's episode: what scares you in horror? But before we get into that, me and T did 3 episodes back in the spring of last year on our individual top 5s in horror. But we have a new host here on the show. It's time we need to find out what your top 5 in horror is. English. What is your top 5 in the world of horror?
My top 5. I didn't have difficulty with this, to be honest. I had more than 5. I'm sure when you and T did yours, whittling down to 5 was difficult. I've got a definitive top 3. Like, my top 3 doesn't change. But the 4 and 5 spots, there's been, I say over this sort of last week, I've been thinking about it. There's been maybe half a dozen films that have cycled through the 4 and 5.
I will say, when I did my top 5, I would say mine were not in order apart from the number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 is my all-time favorite horror film, but number 2 to 5 could be, you could mix them up. So that's
fair. That's fair enough. I have settled on 5. That will, like I say, it'll probably be out of date if you ask me again tomorrow. And I believe there's a little bit of overlap with yours.
Oh,
a little bit. On 2, I think, if I remember rightly.
Follow me.
But yeah, without further ado, number 5.
Shut the drum roll.
Poltergeist, 1982, the original. All the films I mentioned will be originals.
Obviously.
I think there's been a remake of every single one.
Oh my god, there was a Poltergeist remake.
There was a Poltergeist remake, which I haven't seen actually.
Holy shit, there was.
Like I said, yeah, there is a remake of every single film on my list, and I have seen 2 of those remakes. No, I tell a lie, 3 of those remakes. But in terms of my list, it's the OGs, it's the originals. Yeah, I never saw the original. I never saw the remake of Poltergeist. I saw the trailer for it, and they seemed to weigh heavily on the clown doll. Which is only a really small part of the original, if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. And It's
You're gonna
a
say
film.
yeah.
It's a
you
film.
Not like it? You're not a fan?
No, it's not a bad film. It's not a bad film at all. Because of what it is, and what I'm about to say is actually true, but it's such a Spielberg horror film.
Yeah.
It is a partly Spielberg film, but it feels like a Spielberg film.
It definitely does. There's something about the way Spielberg makes films that are quintessentially Spielberg. You could take out the Poltergeist and you could slip E.T. into that film, and it's definitely. And I mean, it's my list, and these films are on there for whatever reasons. In terms of Poltergeist,
no, you're wrong.
I don't like it. It's one of it's on there because it's one of those horror films that I saw at an early age, and I got a bit obsessed with it, and I watched it a lot. And there was a couple of films that me and my cousin used to watch, like every day, or every couple of days. We were obsessed with it. So I used to watch Poltergeist. I've seen Poltergeist. I haven't watched it for many years, but I watched it a lot for when I first saw it. So yeah, it's not necessarily on there because it's scary or particularly or anything like that. It's got a good nostalgia vibe for me because it was one of those films I really enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. It's a 1982. I didn't realize it was that old. Wow. I never saw the sequels. I personally enjoyed it. It's one of those ones like Cannibal Holocaust where, like from the Cursed Films episode, has a fascinating backstory to it. That film.
Yeah, it does indeed.
It's sad but fascinating.
So yeah, I love it. I mean, if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen Poltergeist, basic premise is family move into a new build estate, and spooky things start happening, centering around the young girl of the family, the Carol Ann, the daughter. And it later transpires that these spooky goings on are occurring because the estate was built on top of a cemetery.
Of course it was, yeah.
Where they moved the headstones, but not the bodies underneath.
Which they actually used real bodies, didn't they, in the film?
And they did. Yeah, that is one of the big sort of fun facts about Poltergeist.
Fun.
Is that in sort of the climactic scene in a swimming pool, a lot of cadavers pop out of the ground, which should be up there for the Oscar for best dead rising out of the ground scene.
No, I've got a video that says different over here. Okay.
But yeah, apparently they were real skeletons. Which
it's been parodied to hell as well.
Has it?
I mean, in like I'd say pop culture entertainment, it gets it. I mean, Scary Movie is probably the most famous one. Scary Movie 2. It's one of the main films that it's parodying. The clown has a scene with with Ray, like it's and other moments from it, and I think it's been parodied in Simpsons, Family Guy, maybe like just little things like that.
Yeah, I think so. There are little references. It's one of those. It's a
big film.
It's a big film. Yeah, I'm not too hot on the sequel. I would say I'm not too hot on the sequels. I have seen them. I don't remember them anywhere near as well. But the first one was I watched it a ton. The scene where the guy peels his face off in the mirror.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that scene. It was brilliant.
I think one of my favorite bits about it was it's a little thing, but I'm a big fan of an actor. Just looking up now because I couldn't remember his name. Say I'm a big fan of him. He is also in Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2.
Strange things have been.
IMDb started playing the trailer. Sorry about that for the audio listeners. I should have had this ready. What's his name? James Karen. So he plays Mr. Teague in the film. I'm not sure.
It does, and I'm
Part-
trying to remember who Mr. Teague is.
Yeah.
Is he? He's possibly one of the property developers, maybe.
Oh, well, this is embarrassing, isn't it? I shouldn't have brought it up.
But that's the thing about the Dreadcast is we like to fly by the seat of our pants.
We never said. Yeah, we never said we were going to be accurate.
It's an informal chat. We want to pique your interest enough to go and watch these films for yourself.
He's the boss. He is the boss. Here we go. As the webpage loads up, he is the boss of Steve Freeland. He was the one who built a living place called Gesta Verde in California. There we go.
Yeah, he's the guy.
It's
you
his
move
fault.
the headstones, but not the bodies.
Yeah,
he's shouting.
Big fan of him. Big fan of him. I didn't expect that to be on your list. I don't know what I expected on your list, but
I mean, like I said, the bottom two spots, they were, shout out to The Omen, which nearly made the list. I switched out at the last minute for that nostalgia reason, for the reason that it was one that I watched a lot. And again, like I say, I've not seen it for a long time, so I probably should give it another spin just to.
Have you ever seen The Gate?
The Gate.
Because it's not a poltergeist film, but it's the same sort of setting of set in a house, mysterious paranormal things keep happening. But
Stephen Dorff.
And it's like evil coming from a portal gate down to the ground outside.
Yeah, I think I have seen it.
That to me reminds me a bit of Poltergeist, but I think I preferred it. I think I preferred that to it.
Yeah, I mean it's a few years after, but it's definitely that sort of kids left home alone accidentally unleash a horde of malevolent demons from a mysterious hole in their suburban backyard.
I hate it when that happens.
It was the 80s. Kids got left alone all the time,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think I have seen that a long time ago.
It's great.
And
film, folks.
It does feel, it's definitely got similarities there. And again, kind of like you were saying about Poltergeist being very Spielberg-esque. The Gate also has that kind of could be a kids movie, could be a family movie. Fair one. So that's number 5.
Here's one just before you move on, and kind of related to our topic today.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find Poltergeist originally scary when you watched it?
Oh, no, I don't think I did. There's. Let me just. No, I didn't, but it has elements. There's in the beginning when just before things burst out properly and it all kicks off. There's a scene where I think they go into the kitchen and all the furniture's stacked up.
I love that scene.
Now, as we'll get onto, things like that I do find creep me out now, and they work very well.
Yep.
That sort of weird stuff going on in the background kind of thing. But no, at the time, I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was great. At no part, I don't think I found any of it particular. Maybe the clown doll bit was a bit creepy, but again, I was still getting over that Child's Play trauma at the time as well. So
fair play.
Anything with dolls kind of worked. So maybe a little bit, but overall, nah, I don't think so. But the next film, Dawn of the Dead, number 4, Dawn of the Dead.
And now you're about to say Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead,
which I have seen, is one of the remakes I have seen.
Yeah, which we discussed
I
today.
And we did just talk about it today, see if you can guess what the other one is. It was on the same post.
Oh, okay.
But as I say, we're talking about the originals. So the 1978 OG Dawn of the Dead, and again, similar story to Poltergeist. That it just had that I've got that nostalgia with it.
Yeah.
From being slightly older, I was a teenager. Used to kick around, well, still do kick around with a good friend of mine, Joe, who introduced it to me to it. He had a couple of older brothers, so I think he was always getting his hands on films that were probably a little bit. I mean, we're talking maybe 13, 14 sort of age. And he had a couple of older brothers, so he was able to get his hands on a few bits and pieces that we probably shouldn't have been watching.
Naughty.
But yeah, absolutely loved Dawn of the Dead, zombies. That got me into that whole zombies, post-apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you know, this was on your list, wasn't it? Am I right in thinking this was?
I can't wait till we eventually do an episode on this film, because I could talk for fucking hours on this. It is on my list. It's probably, if it's in 2 to 5, but if I was to list it, it would probably be number 4 as well. I see George Romero's Dead series as more of a trilogy. I was never a fan of Land of the Dead.
No.
Night of the Dead is the classic. Dawn of the Dead is important, but Day of the Dead is his best film. With the best effects. It's one of Tom Savini's probably masterpiece, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I prefer Dawn of the Dead. It's a weird one to say. It's like how I've described X and Pearl to people. I think X is the better horror, but Pearl is the better film.
Okay.
Dawn of the Dead is the most important one, I think, out of all of it, all of them. And I agree. Dawn's fantastic, and like the remake is one of the best remakes in horror, and that's a hard group to get into.
I really enjoyed it. Massively enjoyed the remake. Thought it was great. But the original is brilliant, and it was the first of. It was the. I'm with you that Night of, Dawn, and Day are the 3 to bother with. Land is not very
Land's
good.
okay. Yeah. It's
what was the other one? Diary,
and then was there Survival? I believe there was Survival of the Dead. I don't know if that was done by George A. Romero though.
Forget that one. Survival was the not Survival. Sorry, Diary was the handycam found footage, which was. I think I remember seeing a film called Zombie Diaries around the same time, which is basically the same thing. And there was a lot of like, let's film everything on camcorders because it makes it real. Yeah, that was the trend.
That's a whole other discussion there about POV and there you go. Survival of the Dead, 6th entry. Yeah, after Diary.
Right.
And it was Georgia. We don't need to. Look at it. It cost $4 million to make. It made $380,000 in the box office. So Dawn is superior.
Yeah.
Do you know the reason for the title change with The Living Dead not being in it?
No. I don't think I do.
Oh, a fun fact for him. So George A. Romero and John Russo created Night of the Living Dead. They both went their separate ways, but John Russo took the rights for Living Dead.
Okay.
And helped create Return of the Living Dead. The Return of the Living Dead 1.
Yeah.
So that's why it stayed there.
Then
George A. Romero obviously lost it, so it went to Dawn of the Dead rather than Dawn of the Living Dead. Day of the Dead.
I see.
It's a little thing. And then you've got.
I did always wonder if those films were related, though. So I guess technically they are. Yeah.
They're.
I mean, they've got a common ancestor.
I mean, the films that are really related are Fulci's Zombie.
Yeah.
I feel like I talk about this nearly every other episode. How so convoluted the titling of Zombie Flesh Eater Zombie 2 is, and how it's related to Dawn of the Dead. How it's meant to be the sequel. I think the sequel to Dawn of the Dead. I'm not getting into it again. It's just ridiculous.
The story's out there, guys. Look it up.
Good call. Good pick.
Yeah. So I loved it, and it was the first. It was the first of that trilogy that I watched. And I mean, I don't know. I love the shopping mall stuff, because I think everybody's fantasized about being locked in a shopping mall, being able to do what you want, and there's all that sort of stuff going on, and you know, there's the intelligent, the highbrow political commentary and social commentary that Romero's films had. I love the effects. Some of them a little bit wonky with the weird green skin and luminous orange blood, but I love it. It's so good, and I occasionally get that song stuck in my head. You know, the like the kind of Muzak elevator. I'll just find myself like it'll be cooking away or whatever I'm doing, and just start. It just pops in there, and I can't get it out. I love that movie so much.
You mentioned about the sort of political stuff that he adds in. The opening scene in the newsroom is so good, where people are just losing their fucking mind, and the doctor's just there like, hey, like
they're all sweaty and the tie's open, and
he's trying to explain what's going on, but people are just losing their fucking mind. And George Romero is in that shot as well. He's his little cameo. You can see him. He's behind one of the control panels.
It's great, and there's like some of the sweeping shots over like the empty towns, and it's brilliant. And what I like about, I mean, you kind of get it's a bit of a weird one, is Dawn, because you get the impression that it's been going on. The outbreak has been going on elsewhere, but we're seeing the beginning of it in that particular area, because you've got the SWAT team going into the apartment building, and obviously a lot of those people in there are alive, and they find the
apartment building.
They find the zombies in the basement, so you kind of think like, or maybe there's been an attempt to quarantine it. The point is, it's just started. It throws you in there. And that's what I like about a lot of zombie fiction, is I don't need to see an origin story. I don't need to see how it started. I don't need to see monkeys biting scientists in laboratories. I just want to be dropped into this world where it's all gone to shit straight away, you know?
I also don't need a reason or them to find out, this is why it's happening. This is how we can fix them.
No,
don't need that.
Don't need it.
The only one that gets an exception is Brain Dead / Dead or Alive, where he gets bitten by the rat monkey at the beginning. That's fine.
Yeah, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. Also, I love that movie though.
Oh god.
But yeah, no, I absolutely loved Dawn. I remember, like I say, I watched it round at my friend's house, and then on my way out, I was like, "Can I borrow it?" So I took the tape on. I took his tape on with me and watched it again a couple more times before I got back to it. Yeah, brilliant. Amazing. Look at that. Thing of beauty.
The 4K collector's edition.
See, 4K collector's editions are so beautiful, but I don't have anything to play them on. So I can't justify getting them.
You have Xbox, which one?
The one.
That's the generation with the PS4 generation, not the new Xbox.
Yeah,
that's a shitter.
Not yet.
You need this a 4K player then.
But I need a 4K player, and I need a TV to display it as well.
That's as well. Well, so there you go.
Yeah.
When we set up our Patreon, the first goal will be to get Aidan a 4K player.
Crowdfund me a 4K player.
Yep.
Pretty please. Just so I can buy some nice box sets.
Oh man, we'll definitely do an episode on Dawn, because we could talk for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I adore that film. And again, just give me another reason to watch it. Just give me a reason to watch it. Yep. But yeah, and honorable mention to the remake. It was great. That the opening scene of that remake is, like I say, you don't need to see where it all started, but it is good to see how the characters get involved. You know what I mean? So it starts with the little girl wandering in, and
even the end of that film in the credits
so quick.
But the credits where they don't actually survive, Not a lot of people have seen that scene.
I forgot. They go because there's a bit on a boat and they open the cooler and there's a head in it. And then they get to what they think is safety on an island or something. Yeah. And if I remember rightly, a horde comes charging out of like the tree line. Yes, nobody survives.
Great. No.
Which I love.
Yeah,
it is. It is. I say there's a big thing generally in horror films. If people don't, I love horror films where people don't survive, when nobody gets away.
Yeah.
Because I find that like 100 times more realistic in the majority of situations. Like there ain't no final girl, there ain't no final anybody. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that credits because it runs alongside the credits, doesn't it? It's Oh yeah, wow, good shout, man. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's great. And I think that does just bump it up that little bit. They don't get away.
No. So what's number 3?
Yeah, no, definitely good. So yeah, number 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And again, we're talking originals. We're talking about the OG 1974.
We're talking the greatest horror film ever made. That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking.
Well, it's not because it's not in
the
top spot. But,
it is. I mean,
but it is.
It
is. It's so good. There isn't an episode on this, is there?
No,
You did the new one. You did the 2022 one.
Yes, and we'll never discuss that ever again. But there's a lot of classics I've been trying to hold off on because I don't want to blow the load at once, all at once, you know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Which is why back at Halloween we didn't do Halloween original. We did Halloween Resurrection.
Sure. Appreciate.
But no,
I appreciate that.
This episode will take me. When we do it, it will take me a lot of time to get my notes down. It might be a two-parter. Like, oh man, it's perfect.
Again, it is phenomenal. And just recently I've been listening to a lot of horror related stuff and documentaries and things like that. And there's a reason this is a classic. It comes up time and time and again. People, you know, we can talk about it. We could talk about it endlessly. It's just so good. But what I love the most about it, and this is one that I did find scary when I first saw it.
Same.
It's creepy as hell. It's not the violence, which is all very minimal, as you know, many people talking about this film have said. There's not as much violence in this film as you think there is. There's a lot of gore. There's no gore. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of implied. You know, your memory makes it worse than what it actually is, and that's brilliant. That is just phenomenal. And yeah, it's so creepy, and like watching it, and you get that sense that this stuff's been happening before, and lingering shots on like the kind of scarecrow effigy exhumed body at the beginning. And,
oh yeah, the grave when they dug the grave up. Yeah.
It's just gritty and nasty.
Yeah.
And yeah, the tone and the mood of it, and bleak.
Everything you've just said, I'm gonna have to just take out the notes of the part of what scares me for our upcoming discussion. I'll get rid of that because I've put down gritty, grainy. I 100% agree with what you're saying, and I think the thing I've always narrowed it down to is that film feels like you're watching a documentary that was shot by the Sawyer family themselves. It feels like that the family have done a shooting it, and it's too. I mean, granted, it's a 70s film, so the film's not good. I mean, it is getting restored to 4K and coming out, I believe, in February. Very excited to see that. But the graininess will still be there. But it's that 70s grainy film. It just adds so much more texture to, no, not literally, texture to the realness of it. It feels real. And especially with the title crawl at the beginning. It makes you think, oh, okay, did this happen? Did this actually happen? And they're just portraying it like it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading something years ago that a lot of people did think it was real, and there were people that claimed that there'd been psychiatric nurses in the wards where Leatherface had been like incarcerated after the fact, and there was all sorts of like mythology around it, that because people did think it was real. And it would have been Toby Hooper's 80th birthday yesterday, so I think
I saw that. Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
I found out about 10 minutes before we started recording. I was like, oh, probably.
Quick note.
But I'm gonna mention that. I'm gonna get that in there.
Another thing with that film that goes hand in hand with discussion in a minute. There's an incredible jump scare in Texas Chainsaw. If you've never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, there is an incredible jump scare that you won't see coming. It's spoilers right now. 3, 2, 1. It's when Sally is pushing Franklin around at the end in the dark, and he suddenly, Sally, I think I hear something. Turn around and
oh yeah,
and it just that is a fantastic jump scare. It's not a modern day quiet, and then suddenly like
the music.
You know it's coming. Yeah, you know. Okay, here comes the monster. This didn't creep up from you. And there's another part earlier on, and I'm not going to go on to this too much, where, oh God, my mind is blanking. I'm tired from work. One of our main group enters the house, one of the men, and he goes further into the house, trips, and Leatherface just appears with a mallet and whacks him in the head.
Yeah, it's that first kill.
There's no jump scare. It's just like the pig sound, the whack of the mallet. The whack of the mallet again, drags him in. The jump scare sound that you'd normally get comes when he slams shut the door, because that's the impactful, like, bang! Okay, you've just witnessed
it makes that dirge sound,
yeah, you've just witnessed some crazy shit, and now it's like, right, let's go.
And it does come out of nowhere. It does just like bang, and things ramp up very quickly after that, and that it's the whole film kind of follows that.
Is that scarier?
Model.
You're just in your house, and suddenly something like a Leatherface just walks by into your room. That's more terrifying than dun 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 dun.
But yeah, definitely. It's
good shout.
Again, another one that's going to be a long episode, I think, when we do that one.
And a solid remake.
Yes. Again,
fantastic, another good remake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how many are there though? There's a couple of different ones, isn't there?
You've got the 2003 remake. You've then got the prequel that came after that in the same universe. You've then got Texas. I think it's called Texas Chainsaw 3D, which is when the 3D craze.
Oh, yeah.
Which was awful.
We tried to reboot 3D.
Yep, that's when our final girl finds out she's related to Leatherface. And then we had a film called Leatherface, which was basically another prequel film in its own universe, which was horrendously bad. And then we had Netflix's one, which shockingly, folks, was
just terrible.
Just
terrible.
Watch the first 4. The fourth one is fun as anything.
So yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, definitely.
Brilliant choice.
Absolutely. Number two.
So
as I said, my top 3 don't shift. Like, so it's always these 3.
Okay.
Number 2, Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead.
Nice, very nice.
Absolute classic. And again, another one that my good friend Joe introduced me to when we were teenagers. And we just got a little bit obsessed with, and we used to watch it time and time again. And it's just brilliant. I love the animation. I love reading it. Since I've read Bruce Campbell's autobiography, If Chins Could Kill, and he talks a lot in that about how they made it, and sticking doll heads on planks of wood and shaking them around, and like when we watched it, the effects did look wonky.
Yeah.
You know, at times, and quite clearly that is something on a broomstick, or this is.
Hey, if it works,
you can see lighting in shots and stuff like that. But there are some genuinely scary moments in that.
Yes, there are.
Particularly centered around Nancy, is it? Ash's girlfriend. I think she's the first one to go. No, Linda.
I love what you're doing, like what I did, where these are my favorite films, my top favorite. I love them.
No,
who
nothing
the
about
fuck?
them.
Who was in it? What happened? What?
I probably should have said this earlier, but I never pay attention to what characters are called, who's directed a thing, or just I get immersed in the film, but don't pay attention to names.
Bunch of absolute hacks we are. Absolute hacks.
But that's why we're so entertaining, Tom.
That must be it.
But yeah, I love that. But yeah, like Linda, I used to have. I don't know if it was my phone ringtone at one point, but I had the nursery rhyme that Linda sings when she's first possessed.
Na, 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 na.
Yeah, we're coming to get you. And I was like, it used to scare the shit out of me every time it went off. I was like, why have I done this?
Yeah, there hadn't really been. I can't think of anything before this that had their sort of visual look, the demonic visual look that they have, especially when she's in the basement, trying to pop up the basement hatch. I'm looking at the image now, like white of the eyes, greenish face with scratches, blood just water falling out of her mouth. It's it's horrific.
I mean, it is. I'm looking at this, probably the same image, and that'd stand up today.
Oh, without doubt.
That'd stand up today as a a horrific image.
Yeah.
But this has got a lot going for it for horror. What I think is successful horror tropes, what things that scare me. It's got possession. It's got being trapped. It's got everything. But from teenage me's point of view, it had. I was told it was a zombie film.
Yeah.
So the way my mate Joe presented it to me was like, "Oh, I've got this other zombie film," and I guess I can see why he described it that way. I mean, it's not a zombie film in the same way Dawn of the Dead is, but there's rotting creatures getting chopped up. So I was like, it's a zombie film, but I wasn't prepared for it being what it actually is, which is possession with a lot of gore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, I love the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah.
The sequels are great for different reasons, but obviously the Evil Dead, the original, is played as a horror film. It's played as a straight horror film. Then maybe I'm trying to think now. Is there any comedy in that, or did that all come through in the second one?
I was about to ask you because this obviously both
there is.
No, I think because the second film is it's basically a redoing of the first film.
Yeah,
in a way, but they went a bit more goofy with it. So the first one is a scarier film. The second one, I would say, has better production quality to it. Like they learned a lot of lessons from the first one. They probably had a bigger budget. So it's hard to tell which one's the better film. If you want the better horror, you go with the first one.
Yeah.
If you want the funner film, maybe you go with the second one. And then what's good as well
is auto playing in the background. It's distracting.
Oh, sorry.
I can't hear it, but I can just see it, and I'm like, oh, I'm watching The Evil Dead now.
Thankfully, it's not a franchise that has any. I mean, Army of Darkness is not even a guilty pleasure. It's great fun.
It's brilliant. I love it.
It's fantastic.
It's got skeleton warriors, which ticks another massive box because I was a huge Jason and the Argonauts fan when I was a kid. So it's got that whole fantasy nights and stuff going on, which I love as well. So yeah, I absolutely adore the whole franchise. I am so psyched for the new one. And another great remake.
When we did the Evil Dead Rise trailer reaction, last one T did, he'd never seen the remake of Evil Dead. I was like, mate, you have to watch this. It's an underrated remake, I feel.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Really good. And
I think we've talked about it previously, and It's got that same bleak, gritty, dark. It's disgusting. It's horrible.
It is disgusting.
Like,
oh man,
in the nicest possible way, it is disgusting. It
the tongue.
Because I went to see that. I went to see that at the cinema, and I was expecting a bunch. It keeps you on your toes because I was expecting a bunch of jump scares.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. It doesn't. It bails out of every jump scare, but it keeps that tension, and that's the best bit of a jump scare is the tension. I hate the actual jumping out bit, but the tension precluding it is that's what I like.
Yeah,
and it was just moment like that, moment like that, moment like that, just intercut with horrible moments of needles going into eyes and really uncomfortable, uncomfortable injuries.
The tongue slicing in half, and then going in for the French kiss. Oh man!
I mean, shout out to the original for the pencil in the ankle because that's a similar.
I think you mean pencil in an apple. That's how they did it.
That is a similar kind of. You can feel that injury.
Well, the original jump scare in that is she's at the window, and she I can't remember the character. Is it the first? It must be the first one. One of the main characters. She sat at the window, repeating a phrase, and then suddenly turns to the camera.
Yeah.
That's a big time jump scare for the film.
Yeah. There are some jump scares in that.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, I'm not a fan, but they can be okay. They can be done well.
Can work.
But yeah, that's my number 2 pick. The original Evil Dead.
Numero
uno. And I don't know. This might strike you as an odd choice. I'm not sure, but 1973's The Wicker Man.
Oh, wow!
It's a bit out there. It's a bit out. I know it's.
I've never seen The Wicker Man. Never seen The Wicker Man. What I have seen is not the bees.
No, well, I haven't, and I refuse to watch. I refuse to really even acknowledge that exists. So I will not watch that.
I will not have Nick Cage slander on this podcast.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Nick Cage fan, but my love for The Wicker Man trumps anything that Nick Cage has ever done. And one day I will watch it. One day I probably should watch it, just so I can kind of rip that Band-Aid off. But
yeah, I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. But it is brilliant. But obviously, I'm going to say that it's my number 1 horror film. It's probably my number 1 film.
Wow.
Like, I love it. I love it.
Wow.
And it's so creepy. It gives me chills, and it still gives me chills now. It's just from the start to the finish. It's creepy as hell. So again, I say who's not seen it, but you've not seen it.
Hello.
So yeah, quick run through of the plot is: a policeman comes to Scottish Island to investigate a missing child. He's been contacted. He's had a letter sent to him saying, "We've got a missing child. Come and help us find her." And he finds out that this island they follow the old ways. They're a pagan society. There's lots of sun worship and different rites going on. He's a devout Christian.
Yep.
And he basically, it's such a strange film for such a number of reasons, but most of the way through, he's looking for this girl, and he gets the runaround from everybody on the island. They tell him one thing, they point in, he's just on a wild goose chase. He's following red herring after red herring after red herring. And you can see him getting so frustrated, and it's almost comical, the fact that he's getting so frustrated. And then there's a big, huge twist at the end where it turns out that he's been brought there to fulfill one of their rites, one of their rituals. And it's just so good, just the way it's done. And it's bizarre. It's a bizarre film. There's lots of musical numbers in there. It almost is a musical at some point. It's
really
very strange. You've got to watch it, man. You've got to watch it.
Okay, Okay, I will. I will.
But yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd recommend this to anybody. It's so good. Christopher Lee's in it. He's absolutely
I'm seeing
phenomenal.
that.
A little bit hammy at times, but it just adds to the effect. But yeah, that the sort of end scene where it all kicks off and the community come together and there's a big scene where they're singing a hymn, and all sort of swaying, and it still gives me the creeps now, and it's such a subtle, slow burn, but
I assume now, by the fact you've said this is your favorite horror film and film, that you probably really enjoyed Midsummer the other day.
I did, and it was the second time I'd seen it. It was the second time I'd seen Midsummer.
Okay.
It wasn't the first time I watched it, but yeah, it's I've been down a bit of a folk horror rabbit hole just recently. Wicker Man being one of the original. There's three films. There's Wicker Man, Blood on Satan's Claw, and Witchfinder General that are kind of the generally accepted as being the original trilogy of, not that they're related, but the original trilogy of folk horror films. And then just recently, the last few years, with films like Midsummer and Kill List, which I watched, and a couple of other different things, there's been this sort of revival of folk horror. And I've kind of been down a rabbit hole just recently trying to watch things that I've missed out on, and I've been reading round the subject and round about things. And yeah, that's why I decided to give Midsummer another spin. And it's up there with The Wicker Man for this. The Wicker Man's better, in my opinion. But if you like Midsummer, there's no reason why you wouldn't like Wicker Man, because it follows the same kind of beats. I see that film very much as like an updated version.
Midsummer.
You're not keen?
I had a bad cinema experience watching it.
Oh.
But even on rewatch, I'm not a bit. I think it's the director, because I wasn't the biggest Hereditary fan.
Oh, see, I liked Hereditary. Out of the two, I probably prefer Hereditary to Midsummer.
I agree. If I had to pick two, I'd probably go with Hereditary. But I think it was more of a director's issue than the film itself, and the bad film experience. But I like the settings. Like, I like the idea of the setting of The Wicker Man. I like the settings of Midsummer. So I do like this sort of
where the two differ. I think where the two differ the most is the community in The Wicker Man are a lot more normal than the community in Midsummer. Midsummer is, although in The Wicker Man it is an isolated community, it's an island. They're not walking around in robes. They're wearing, it's the 70s, but they're wearing normal clothes, and they live, apart from the religion that they're practicing. It's as normal as any sort of other community of the time, which kind of makes the weirdness a little bit more jarring. Whereas in Midsummer, because it's like a commune and there's all these robes and they all live in a big bunkhouse together, and it's not a quote unquote normal way of living, then the weirdness is sort of lost among how the really obvious different way of living, I guess.
I understand. Yeah.
But yeah, I did like Midsummer, but I must admit, the first time I watched it, cause somebody had recommended it to me, and I watched it, and they said, "Oh, what did you think of that?" And the first thing I said was, "Wicker Man does it better." Like, that was just my knee-jerk reaction to it. Was like, "Yeah, it's good, but Wicker Man does this better."
I think I'd appreciate Wicker Man as well, because one of the things that bothered me with Midsummer, which bothers me with certain films, is just get the fuck out of there. Okay, you've just seen them. Do they push someone off a cliff and then they start bashing his head in? How's about let's get the fuck out of it now?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think a couple of the other people do leave at that point, or do it.
Yeah.
We think they leave at that point.
But if the thing with Wicker Man is just saying it's a policeman, he's doing the job, he's got a duty, he's got a a direction to head in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whichever way it diverts, and this cult, as you say, that, but they're not in robes or whatever. They're normal people.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
a bit that feels a bit more. I don't want to say normal to me, but a little.
I mean,
less...
they're not. Then they're not a cult,
Yeah.
really. I mean, they kind of are, but they're not. It's not presented in that same way. You know what I mean? It is that, you know, there's a lady there's a school. There's a lady that works at the post office. There's the fisherman. It's very much just a normal little village from outside appearances. He stays at the pub. You know, it's just that they have this other religion that they follow, and it's mentioned. It's not even a secret. It's mentioned throughout the film. Sergeant Howe, played by Edward Woodward, the main character, he's a devout Christian, and he complains basically from start to finish that, you know, he's got his nose turned up that, you know, they're not Christians and you shouldn't be following. He's told several times like, well, we just do it differently. We're not bad people. It doesn't make us any bad, you know. It doesn't make us as evil or anything. We just do things differently, and this is what works for us, and that's what works for you. But yes, he is this figure of authority as well. So he has, or as far as he's concerned, he's this figure of authority, and he's got this right to be there, and everybody should be. They're not cooperating, and he's frustrated, and it's just so good how they give him the runaround and then sort of flip it all at the end. It's brilliant.
I have noted it down. I've definitely, because it's one I'm obviously aware of the film. It's just one that's passed me this for years and years and years. But no, in the coming how long, weeks or months, that is going to get watched for you.
It's an experience, because it's like I say, that just, you know, there's so many sort of unique elements to it as well. Like I say, there's a lot of weird musical numbers in there and stuff, and bizarre little things that happen, and it's just an experience. I love it. It's a great film.
That's a great top 5.
There we go. That is my top 5.
Poltergeist, Dawn of the Dead, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Evil Dead, and The Wicker Man. That's really sound. That's really cool. That's a great top 5.
Yeah, I was quite pleased, if I do say so myself, because I felt like I had a little bit of everything in there as well. I think it covers. I cover most genres and
paranormal, zombies, slasher. What would Evil Dead be?
Demonic, I mean, Evil Dead's
cabin,
a bit of a hybrid, isn't it? It's supernatural.
Yeah.
I guess it's a possession movie. I guess it's a supernatural possession movie, isn't it? And the Wicker Man folk horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, there's a good case to argue that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is more of a folk horror movie than a slasher movie, given that there's not actually any gore or much.
The goriest parts in that film are the beginning, with, I guess, the bodies, the skeletons, and when he nicks himself in the thigh at the end. And Sally, when she's on the truck covered in blood. That's
being
probably
drenched in blood.
That's probably it. Solid list. And I'm glad I didn't expect half of them. That's really good. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was, like I say, there were a couple of other films I could have chucked in there. I was contemplating bringing The Omen up at one point because I've got a lot of love for that. What was it? And one thing I did notice when I finished was, like, I've got nothing made after 1982. Everything's really old.
Yeah, you're right. I never really clocked that. Holy shit.
And I was like, should I put the Evil Dead remake in there? Paranormal Activity I really like. I should have put a modern one in there. And I was like, I'll stick with what I've got. And but nothing.
Mine goes
nothing
up
too modern.
2008 would be the most modern horror film on my list, and that would be Martyrs. Wreck was 2007, so yeah, 2008 is the most modern I get.
Wreck could have been in there as well. Like I said, ask me tomorrow, and Wreck will be in there, and Poltergeist will be out or something. You know,
Yeah.
there's a few that I could change around quite easily.
Yeah, well, honourable mentions.
Yeah.
I forgot to dip into what you've been up to as well before we even did the top 5. So books, horror, like whatever, like like we did before. So I am very intrigued though by that book you sent me today. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I told you, it's my New Year's resolution to read a bit more this year.
Yeah.
So and then now I've started doing this. I thought, I'll have a look for a few horror books. So I was looking obviously for novels and stuff.
Yeah.
And then just happened across this. So, because I think I found another one. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's about slasher films generally.
Right.
And I thought, that might be interesting. And then there's a couple of folk horror books as well that I saw, and I was like, just general sort of essays on it. And then I found this one. So yeah, it's my favorite horror movie. 48 essays by horror creators on the film that shaped them. So it's got. I mean, there's a lot of names here that I don't know because it's everything from like writers, editors, writers for Fangoria.
But that's cool though, rather than just interviewing your everyday celebrity that everyone knows, because they'll probably for the most part say pretty bog standard, give pretty bog standard answers.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, writers, directors, editors. I mean, it gives you a little rundown of what they've done.
Yeah.
It even drops Twitter handles in there. It feels like it's a collection taken from another website or something. I don't know if that's the case.
How many? But you said this was one book in many.
There's three. There's three versions. 3 volumes of it at least that I know of. So they're all sitting in my Amazon basket at the minute. I thought I'll get the first one this month. And because I think the first one's my favorite horror movie. The second one's called My Favorite Horror Movie 2, The New Blood, and then the third one is My Favorite Horror Movie 3, Dream Warriors. So I don't know if that has any bearing on who's done it, but
right here. Dream Warriors, but, best Nightmare on Elm Street.
But I mean, the films that are in here are what you'd expect. The classics. We've got Soylent Green, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Psycho, Predator, Alien, Aliens, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, there's a couple of Chainsaw Massacre ones because different people have picked it. Nightmare on Elm Street's in there a couple of times. The Thing, Fright Night, Dawn of the Dead. I mean, everything really. The Exorcist. Drag Me to Hell is probably the most modern one in there.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah. I'm just wondering who's picked that one because that's quite a modern film to pick.
That sounds like a really, really interesting book. And again, folks, we're not. Oh, by the way, I am recording. We're not here to shill books, but the fact that someone on this podcast actually reads, which is fantastic. Well, we will talk about it.
Yeah, it's just sort of each chapter is just an essay on that film, kind of like what we've just done with my top 5 and what you guys did with your top 5s. It's why they like that film, whether it scared them as a kid when they watched it, what was the reason. In most cases, it's sort of what got them into horror in the first place. So yeah, picked it up, thought it'd be an interesting read, and I'll let you know once I've gone through a few.
Oh, you'll be finished by tomorrow evening probably, or Saturday morning. You'll be done. You'll be done with the whole series onto a new one.
I am devouring stuff at the minute.
You're a fast reader as well.
Mm-hmm.
By the sounds of it, you blitz through them.
When I get into something. I mean, I don't know, because maybe I've been fortunate. I've just picked a few books recently that I've not been able to put down. So, yeah, I've been hammering through them.
Yeah. Not to sound, let's say, not to sound like a non-intellectual, but there's something about maybe it's minor ADHD or whatever. I don't know, but reading, I can never just stick with it. The last book I read was a Slipknot autobiography. Just after All Hope Is Gone came out. Not when because that album came out fucking decade ago or more. But even that I just long? All Hope Is Gone. Yeah,
that's a frightening thought. I think you're right, but that's a frightening thought.
And yeah, I do need if I want to read, I definitely need something to grip me. I need to hold my attention because mine just starts to wander. I start thinking about other things.
I go through phases with it. Like I will read like voraciously for a period, and it's not necessarily a long period or a short period, but for a period, and then I might not pick up a book for 18 months or longer. I do go through peaks and troughs with it. I just trying to make a concerted effort to actually do. I mean, somebody asked me today, and they were like, "How long are you doing? Or how many books are you aiming for?" And I was like, "Well, one a week would be good, so 52. But if I can just hammer out 52 books in the first 6 months, and then I don't have to read for the rest of the year, that'll work as well."
I've done it. It's fine. You could just read like 52 Mr. Men books, and you'll be done in a week. Like, actually, no. I do have a book I'm about to start reading soon. Hang on a minute. Hang on. So I got this for Christmas. As I mentioned to you before, big Rodriguez and Tarantino fan. I got this new book called Cinema Speculation.
Oh, okay.
He was actually doing like a show, like live show in London and a few other places, but the tickets are just absurd price because of course they are.
Yeah.
Which would have been nice. He just talks about the book and everything else, but much like the Eli Roth episode of History of Horror, which is, I think it's a two-parter, or it's the longest episode on that series. I could listen to Tarantino talk about film all day because
I was just going to say that I could as well, quite easily.
His knowledge is just insane. It's like, oh, this actor was in here, but it was better in this film, and then this film had a good sequel there, but it wasn't as good as. I could learn and just listen to him talk about film in general all day. So I feel like I'm going to get hooked on, and I'm looking forward to this. So once I move house soon, this is going to be my job to get through that.
Yeah, you'll do it, man. Like you say, you know, that's how you get in. This has turned into a reading podcast now. But
welcome everybody to the Dreadcast reading podcast. Here we talk
if you found something that you got a hook, you found something that's going to get you into it, and by that time I'll have like 30 recommendations for you to continue.
You've already had some recommendations for me, man. It's hard. I mean, this podcast alone, doing it for, I think we've been doing it for a year now. We started when Scream 5 came out last year. I need to check up on that anniversary, whatever. But it's really, it's fired up my passion even more for horror. Wanting to watch more and more horrors that I hadn't seen, rather than being, I can't be asked. I've never seen it. It doesn't look good. I'm more open to trying a lot more horror now. I'm more open to discussing horror that I don't know about or not really too fun. It's just fueled my passion, and I think,
definitely, man.
Much like with your books, I've been wanting to watch and have been watching so many more horrors in a short period of time than I would have normally. Not as many as you, like one in. No, you messaged me at 11 a.m. in the morning. I'm watching The Babadook. Like, what the? I'm machining some stuff at work, and he's watching the horror.
I've got to catch up. I'm the new kid on the block. I've got to catch up. But yeah, coming a similar sort of angle to it. I mean, and I was kind of like, oh right, I guess I'm co-hosting a horror podcast now. Should probably watch a few more horror films, because I like to say that I'm a horror fan, and I am, but then I think there's a lot of stuff I've not seen for whatever reason. So I was like, I probably should get a few more under my belt, so I can.
It's good to admit,
like admit it. I'm talking about.
You shouldn't have to admit it. It's like people that I know Twitch streamers, video game Twitch streamers that become so big on video games, but they only play maybe 1 or 2 games at a time, and people feel like they should know about. Their brain should be a bible about video games.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. Like, yeah, we're both massive horror fans, but we've not seen every single horror film that's ever been made.
No.
There's a lot of people that don't realise that.
Ones out there, really. There's a lot of,
yeah.
and I'm kind of a fan of bad movies as well, but there's a lot of like just dross. It's not even the so bad it's good camp. It's just don't waste your time.
It's the Amazon Prime bottom of the barrel, which we used to call it, which was where we got the Beaster Bunny from.
Yeah. Most of my watch list is made up of those films. I think that sounds brilliant. The Ginger Dead Man. Yeah. Like, yes, there's about 5 of them that I need to work through.
The Killer Sofa.
Killer Sofa's brilliant.
I knew you were going to say that.
I fucking love Killer Sofa. It's amazing. The director follows me on Twitter.
But Aidan, did it scare you?
I mean, no.
Wow.
It's ridiculous, but it's brilliant. I also want to see Carousel at some point as well, about the haunted merry-go-round.
No, I'm not sure that will scare you either.
No, I don't think so.
What does scare you? Oh, Seg was trying to get into the segue.
I know you were desperately, sorry, I was fighting against it. You were desperately trying to get
I was trying. I was trying.
Yes, the meat and potatoes of today's episode. What scares you in horror?
It's quite a vague question. It is, but I feel like that's why I did it, because it means we could really get into detail a bit more about it.
And it opens the scope as well, because I mean, the short answer, what scares me in horror? Not very much, quite honestly. I had to rack my brains to think actually what does scare me. But it's vague enough that you can go into a whole bunch of stuff about, you know, what is fear generally anyway, you know, and what scares other people. You may have seen that put out on Twitter. I asked the question to the Twitterverse to see, because I thought it'd be nice to get some other perspectives and just general. Because I mean, I could probably tell you in 10 minutes what does and doesn't scare me, but you know, I wanted to get a sense of were there any particular themes that you know recurred and what we can say is like a given scary thing or element.
See, I posed that question on my personal Facebook. I don't really use Facebook anymore, but it's where the people I know best in life are on there rather than Twitter. You know, Twitter is not like. And the one comment I got back was, hang on, as I say that. Oh, here it is. What was that movie we watched where the chavs kill people for dares? That was chilling because it was believable. He's talking about Eden Lake.
Eden Lake. I was gonna. That could have been a quiz. I was gonna say.
Sorry.
Eden Lake?
Yeah, that was the one comment I got.
Good film though.
It's a very good film. Very chilling. I think the vagueness of using the word scary for me more so came down to, I agree with you. More so got scared as a youth. Should we use that term? Of certain films, but for me now, it's a feeling of unsettled. I feel unsettled, unease, and a bit uncomfortable, rather than I'm so scared. You know, that's what it is nowadays for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody that did respond on Twitter.
Yes.
There was quite a few.
What did you get?
A few responses. So it was good of people to weigh in. There was a few people that just tried to tell me a horror story. Like, I'm not asking for, I'm not asking you to write a horror story right now. Just tell me what scares you. But thank you massively to everybody that did respond. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now what doesn't scare me. Blood and guts. That just doesn't faze me in the slightest. Gory films. I'm not squeamish about it. Seeing somebody, you know, any slasher film, seeing somebody's head get chopped off or whatever, is not going to frighten me. seeing somebody sort of in the position where they're possibly going to end up getting their head chopped. It's the build up. I think, and this is what came back in a lot of the responses on Twitter and just me thinking about it generally. Tension's the scary thing. However, that tension is generated varies, but it's not like it's not the jump scare. It's the build up too, and it's the feeling of knowing something's coming, or that sense of unease that something's happening.
I think you're right with the tension. I think the last modern film that I feel right off the top of my head filled me with a dread of and tension was probably the original Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
No
I
matter what
on the same one.
Yeah, no matter what people say about the franchise, it did jump the shark. That first film is important in many ways, but I like to be immersed when I watch a horror film, right? So when I watched the first Paranormal Activity, I was on my own, a lot younger than now. Lights off, just that. It's quiet around. And I'm not one for paranormal films, but that filled me with utter dread and tension. Because the filmmaker adds a subtle bass tone, just a very subtle, quiet bass tone when they're asleep. It shouldn't be there, really. It's kind of like a white noise, but that little tone adds such a great effect to the tension building up that actually feeling a bit. Do you know what? Actually feeling a bit scared.
That's exactly what that film does, and I was the same. I landed on that film, and I was thinking, what was the last film where I can genuinely say that scared me? And I landed on Paranormal Activity as well, and it's got a lot going for it. For one, like you say, they call them sub bass tones? I think they're called.
It sounds right. It sounds correct. So
I did.
We'll go with
I did
it.
a bit of Google. I tried to go a little bit highbrow, and I did some Googling on like the psychology of fear.
How dare you? We don't do highbrow here, sir.
I didn't. I only read the abstract. I cheated. Don't. Just the top tip scholars out there. You only ever read the abstract of an article. You'll get the gist of it.
I like that you mentioned.
It came up. I found somebody's PhD online, and it came up.
Really?
It was mentioned straight away. Yeah, I should probably have remembered what they were called and the university. I could have shouted.
Oh no, forget that. We'll take it. It's ours now.
I'm sure they got the doctorate. But they've done a PhD on cinematic tropes that scare us and the effect of horror movies on on us as humans, and whether you can suffer things like PTSD from watching things like this, and whether what's the word? You can desensitize to it, and whether that causes problems. But one of the first things that was mentioned was the use of sub-bass tones in Paranormal Activity.
It works.
So there you go. Worked. It's a thing.
When you mentioned the blood and guts, and then we went on to paranormal, like I actually when I did my notes, I kind of wrote them down in the horror subgenres, and thinking about what other people find scary. So, for instance, blood and guts, I'm the same as you. I'm kind of desensitized to it now because of the fact passionate about horror, and I've seen so much of it. It doesn't really do much to me. Terrified 2, for example, didn't do much to me. It was gross.
Yeah, that's it. It's gross, and it's not like I'm not going to go, I talked about the needle, when he pulls the needle out of his face in the Evil Dead remake. There's bits where you go,
you wince.
But that's not scaring me. It's not leaving me, it's not giving me that sense of fear. It's making me a little bit uncomfortable because, particularly as well with the violence in that, is you can relate to that. You can relate to sticking yourself with a needle or getting something under a fingernail or something. You know what I mean? Not getting an arm. I've never had my arm chopped off. I don't know what that's like. I can't really relate to it.
Me either.
I'm sure it's painful. I'm sure it's awful. But that's a level of violence that's, and it's not. And I know it's not real. You know what I mean? I don't have a link to it.
I don't think pain and violence really falls under the category of my heart's racing, I'm tingling, I'm scared. Like maybe the build up to that is the scary part, but not the actual physical action of the blood and guts. And
Yeah.
that's not a scary thing, really. It's not a scary moment.
No, I mean, if you some people are sensitive to the sight of blood and they pass
Yeah.
out or whatever, then maybe you feel different about it. But for me personally, I can see Jason Voorhees chop the heads off, a million camp counselors, and it's never gonna bother me. However, something weird going on in the background in Paranormal Activity.
Yep.
Is creepy as all hell and genuinely makes you feel uneasy or makes me feel uneasy and scared.
It's a sense of unknown that's beyond our control. Like you can't control it. If you, for the most part, you're in control of your life. Unless someone hits you with a car or whatnot. But when it's something you can't see, doing something that is very out of the ordinary to you, that is scary. Will make you feel unease because it's kind of put you off your life, your everyday routine.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, which is, and there's a couple of people did say they did specifically mention that as being scary things, things that you can't get away from, things in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling that. I mean, it is something coming into your home is not feeling comfortable in your own home is not a nice feeling. So to see and again, it's that relatable aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, I got burgled a couple of years back.
No shit.
Yeah, and it was it took me a couple of weeks after the fact to feel comfortable.
Oh, completely.
It's horrible, and if it's ever happened to anybody else, it's a horrible sense of feeling violated and somebody's being in your personal space without you knowing or without your permission, and a lot of those paranormal films sort of feed into that fear, I think, of something invading your space and you can't do anything about it. And that's frightening.
Without even knowing, you're giving home runs on these segues, because what I was going to try and link that into was home invasion, because that to me is another that along with the unknown and something beyond your control is scary to me. And the best film I've always thought that could represent this was The Strangers. If you've ever seen with Liv Tyler.
I'm sure I've seen that.
Newly married couple return to their home, and it's 3 people with a weapon each, sort of bags over their head, like knapsacks over their head.
Yeah, I've seen that image.
Yeah, you would know the image for all the posters. They just start terrorizing them, invading their home, and it's a bleak film. But the idea of home invasion, it feels too close to home, I guess, for yourself. If you've been burgled, then the scare factor is going to be even more monumental because it's far too close to home.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
A similar angle, and to be honest, kind of got worse because it ticked a few other boxes for me, but was Us. Jordan Peele's film. Because that doesn't start with, but when the horror ramps up, as it were, it looks like a home invasion film, and that's kind of from seeing the trailers or early screenshots, etc. That is what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like another Purge, or because the first Purge is a home invasion film as well, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, it's something like that. And it wasn't until I actually sat down and watched it that I realized it's not that. It's something worse, because that gets very creepy as well.
Yeah.
But that again, it begins with that that sort of like it begins with that that intrusion.
Yeah, you never want to feel in a vulnerable state in your sanctuary, in your home.
No.
Like, I mean, touch wood, and thankfully, I've never experienced that. It sucks for you. That's shit. I didn't know that. That's awful. Were you in when it happened?
I was
Oh man,
I was yeah, it was kind
that's
of
even
woken up by
worse.
it as well, which
Jesus.
was it was, you know, they got in through a kitchen window, and I woke up. It was I can't remember, I think it was a Saturday morning, and I woke up, and it was like, oh, you know, I looked at something had woken me up. I realized what it was after the fact, but I looked at the clock. Oh, I'm not bothered. I went back to sleep. Rolled over, went back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I came downstairs, and as I was coming down the stairs, I had this sense that something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
I was like, something, before I even got to the bottom, before I even saw that the back door was wide open and like a lot of my shit had gone missing, I was like, something, I just had this uneasy sense as I was walking down the stairs, something's not right here. What am I going to see? And yeah, and I found, like I say, I found that they'd gone in through a window, and then I used to leave my keys in the back door. And I don't do that anymore. But
No.
yeah, obviously when they needed a way out, keys are in the door for them, and off they went.
Oh man,
So,
that's
but yeah,
shit.
it was and you know, it changed. Like I say, it changed habits. I don't leave my keys in the door anymore. I take all my keys upstairs with me. I lock the doors, and I take, you know, it's definitely affected the way I live, kind of thing. But in the immediacy, in the first few weeks after the fact, it was creepy. It was, yeah, it wasn't some, you know, you don't care about the stuff necessarily. Stuff can get replaced. It wasn't the end of the world that a games console and a laptop or whatever had gone. It was just that somebody had got in, and it's a dirty feeling. It's not pleasant.
Feel unclean. The house feels
Yeah.
unclean. You need to cleanse it with some sage going around. Like,
Yeah, definitely. And you know, and you think, you know, you do think like, oh, it could have been, you know, they didn't come upstairs, but what if they had done? You know what I mean? Your mind wanders, and yeah, it's not a pleasant thing to happen.
I think the home invasion scenario is definitely it's up there in the list of things in horror films that feel too close to home and could happen to you, but feel more like real life situations that could happen are more terrifying than zombies.
Not scary.
Not scary.
No.
Like, because it's not real. You know, it's zombies aren't real. It's hard to be scared by that if it's not real. But something like, I don't know, a horrific sexual assault, a home invasion, things like that, a stalker, like it's a bit more too real, too close to home.
Yeah.
So it adds a bit more tension, a bit more scared to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is the crux. So I mean, you can play around with it and introduce like a supernatural element to a home invasion, or you know, or that sense of your home being invaded is the scary thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, things, that it is. It's having that sort of empathy, I guess. You can put yourself, if you've not directly experienced it, you know what it would be like to be in that situation. Something that gets me is POV footage. Now, we've talked about it before, and we've touched on there has to be a reason why these people are filming and all the rest of it. And there does. But you also mentioned being immersed in a film and immersion, and there's no way no other way of immersing yourself, better way of immersing yourself necessarily than to be looking through that character's eyes as they creep around the basement or enter the haunted mansion or whatever it is that they may be doing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that gets me, and it's kind of jump scary, which again I think we've talked about. Neither of us particularly fond of jump scares.
No, they're for the most part the worst. They made the top of my list of really moments that aren't scary. They're cheap. They're put in to enhance the horror film for your audience, but in reality they're not. They're meant to make your heart race and meant to make you jump out your seat and go oh, but they're not scary.
You'll get a physical reaction out of me with a jump scare. More 9 times out of 10 it'll get me. But they're a bit lazy. I don't like it when a film overly relies on them. You know it's coming, you get the build up, you get there, and then it's just the and it's more often than not it's just a loud noise, isn't it? It's a loud
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. The loud music sting and whatever. And it's and you know, it can kind of ruin what you're doing anyway, because once you've shown the monster, once you've shown the thing, then that fear's gone. But the tension, if you can keep that tension to the build up, if you can keep building it up and not actually pay off, then that can work. And I find that a lot with the POV stuff, is you get that sense of dread because you're looking through the character's eyes, and you can easily put yourself in that position and say like, oh, what am I?
Yeah.
What would I do?
If you want to be really technical and nitpicky with the POV, I completely agree with you. Obviously, the human field of vision is a lot wider than what a camera would be. So, for instance, I've got the door there and the window there. By looking straight, I can see maybe a tiny bit of the window and about 3/4 of the door. A camera is like, if I went like that,
it's a lot more blinkered.
It's a lot tighter. But when I was trying to think of what to discuss with today's topic, and I just went through my top 5 films and tried to point out what I find, in some words, scary about each one of them. And because Wreck is on my list, and that's one of the POV greats. It's found footage POV, and it's that fear, the feeling of isolation and claustrophobia, as the cameraman's not there, you are there. You're there in the apartment block. Really, if you really want to get immersed into a horror film, like say, you turn the lights off, you turn your phone, you put your phone away. You are one with the film, and if you watch it for some time, you're then in the film. There's no cameraman. That's you.
Well, that's it. It's almost like you're being pushed through the door.
Yeah,
like you can't get away from it. You're being forced to look.
Yeah,
you know, if something's happening and it's a separate camera, it's a third person camera, then you can look at the lamp on the back, you know what I mean? You can look away. There are other things. You can be watching the film but not actually looking at the scary bit necessarily. Whereas when you're in that POV situation, then you are looking directly at you're being made to look directly at the horror as well.
It's almost like it was a virtual reality. Yeah, it's almost like it was like a virtual reality that you're, oh shit, I can't get away from it. Yeah. And it goes, especially with Wreck, the last 10 minutes in the attic.
Oh, they're horrible. That is definitely the worst part of that film.
That is a scary moment.
I mean, the scariest. Yeah.
And I'll put it down to that, because it's in POV, it's scarier. If that was a camera following the journalist and the cameraman around, cameras pans to them, back to the monster, the demon, back to it's not as scary, but it's the sense of dread, the tension building up, looking down the camera. There she is, walking towards you slowly. It's coming slowly, and and as an audience, you're like, quiet, she's gonna hear me. Don't move, she's gonna hear me. You're so immersed in it.
And there is a jump scare in that, isn't there? Because they go up into the attic and they pan round the three ways, and then you see it, and so they do get a jump scare out of that. But then, as you say, it continues as you see the girl coming down the corridor and stuff, and that's you're seeing the monster. So as we've mentioned, that kind of shouldn't be scary because things aren't once you've seen
real.
it's yeah. But you've got like you say, you're forced to look at it. You're in that thing, and it's dark, and you don't really know what you're looking at. It's not entirely clear.
That works for me on the sense of Blair Witch Project as well, which I'm a big fan of, and it's again the end scene in the house. You have no idea. You're kind of there with them. You have no idea where the fuck this house is. You're in the middle of nowhere. You've got handprints on the wall. Like, it's so uneasy. It's so unsettling. And you never go in the basement. You never go in the attic. And be again, kind of back to the paranormal, because it's got the odd bit of paranormal side to it. The POV shot really helps. If it wasn't POV, it wouldn't be as scary. So
no.
if POV is done well, like some examples we just used, it can be scary.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the immersion, and it's all about being forced to look at what's happening. Which is why it works. On kind of the other side of the coin, something else that I find maybe scares is too strong of a word, but really helps to sort of ramp up the creep factor. Is background stuff. Things that you might not see, and we've already mentioned it, but Paranormal Activity does this really well with the just little bits of movement in the background, and kind of blinking you'll miss it moments of like, oh, that shadow that's there, and the is it am I thinking now, I might make a mistake here. Is it Paranormal Activity where somebody throws a sheet and it stays there like it's draped over a person, and it's only for like half a second?
Oh, I do know exactly what you mean, and now I can't think of what exactly it is.
I want to say it's Paranormal Activity. It may be one of the sequels.
Yeah, I don't think it's the first one, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Maybe the one with the kids, with the girls when they're younger, which I think is it the second one?
The second one is the one where they're younger, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, again, I'm getting I remember the first one a lot clearer than the others. And then it ended up being Katie is part of this witch's cult or whatever. But I know the scene you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's that sort of, because it is just a split second. It's that, and did I see that? Is that real? I'll rewind it, or you might miss it the first time you watch it and see it again. And it's the Mike Myers being in the background of a shot in Michael Myers, not Mike Myers.
Not Mike Myers.
Different film.
That's very scary.
Austin Powers just in the background.
Very scary.
But yeah, it's those sort of like little background weird things that are. Did you ever see that? Just they're so creepy. Did you ever see Mama?
No, I do know. I know the actress that's in it though. She's great. It came out a couple of years ago, right?
It's going to be one of them where it's going to be a lot longer ago than 2013.
Oh.
2013.
Okay.
So Mama is.
That felt like a couple of years ago.
It's got Nicola Costa-Waldau from Game of Thrones in it.
That is not the film I'm thinking of. Okay. Never mind. No, I'll find out what I was. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
It's about a young couple that take in these two girls that are feral. Essentially, they find them in a cabin in the woods, and they've been living wild. And this young couple take them in, and it does the the creepy kid vibe is strong to be, particularly to begin with, because these girls are all dirty and lank long hair in front of their faces, and they're hiding under beds and like growling, and it's all very creepy. but then it kind of shifts because they come out of the shells a little bit, but it's apparent that there's something supernatural going on.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it makes a really good. It's really good. It's really creepy. It's really nice. And then halfway through, they throw in this backstory and they show you the ghost, and it ruins in my opinion, ruins the whole thing. But while they are building up the tension, you just see little. There's two. So there's two sisters. One of them's a couple of years. I think one of them's maybe 7. The other one's maybe 5. There's a couple of years between them. You'll see the younger one playing with something off camera in the back. She's like obviously interacting with something.
Yeah.
But you there's obviously nothing there. And I think there's a scene where she maybe floats past, and there's just a lot of little weird things happening in the background.
It's very unsettling where you're like,
is,
hang on a minute, what's that? What's that going on back there? Like, okay.
So yeah, and it's, I think it plays on that. Your imagination is far scarier than anything that can be committed to film. And and anything where they do that sort of background, slightly out of frame stuff, is you make it scarier yourself. And you know, you can have the nun jump out from the shadows
and go
10 times out of 10. You'll get a physical reaction out of me, but don't show it and have me conjure something up in my mind, and it's going to be scarier.
One thing, when we last did a proper discussion topic, it was about films to get into horror. And one of the films we used was Signs. Not so much a horror film, but the one scene in it with the alien just walks
across. I've never seen it, right? But I keep seeing things about that scene that make me think I should watch it to find out what all the fuss is about.
It's not done for jump scares because it's played on a recording on a news report on the TV.
Right.
So it wouldn't make sense if the news reporter's going, now we're going to cut to this eerie footage, and then suddenly the audio of the film goes, burn, like that. It wouldn't make sense. So because there's none of that there, you're, in theory, watching this news report of the reporter showing this video, which is from a kid's birthday party. The camera pans, and this alien just walks by.
Right.
Like, it's like, what? What?
Massively unexpected.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about, like, one of the perfect examples about background sort of thing, Michael Myers, Halloween. In the distance, you'll see, you know, on the road, you're seeing kids at Halloween trick or treating, but you're seeing this ghostly figure just walking. Yeah, wait! I see him. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. And you know, you're eerie. Willing the characters to turn around and see it, or they half see it and they react, and it's. I didn't realize until I watched Halloween again just how much you do see him. I watched it again a few months back, and I was like, I forgot just how much you do see him in the background, or driving past, or whatever, before it all kicks off on the actual night.
Perfect film, a perfect film,
and that's something that I think I mentioned when we talked about Child's Play. Is like stuff happens during the day, which makes it scarier as well, because it's just out there at any time, and things can.
You think you're safe in the day. Yeah. You think you're safe. Yeah. All the bad things happen at night. All the ghoulies and monsters come out at night. It's much scarier at daytime.
That's it. You see things
much scarier.
In the day.
By the way, the film I thought you were talking about is called Ma. Came out 2019. It is a horror, but your film was called Mama.
Mama, yeah. Which, just it had a lot of promise. It started out well, and then it just shot itself in the foot.
Oh dear!
Showing too much, which is unfortunate because it was pretty cool when it was pretty cool at the beginning.
Briefly, we mentioned about Halloween. Something that a lot of people don't really think about, I think, is like the scores. Halloween, John Carpenter's score for Halloween to me is horror. I hear that, and that is rather than Friday the 13th, kick, mama, yeah, that the Halloween, the 4-note score to me is horror, and I don't get scared when I listen to it, but it makes me instantly think of anything horror, even whether it be Halloween or anything.
Depending on the setting, I think it can be scary. I can't remember where I picked this up from, but somebody once, I read it somewhere, or nobody said it to me. I read it somewhere, and it may have been a Charlie Brooker article.
Okay.
But he mentioned, whoever it was, I can't swear to that, but whoever it was, they said, listen to the Halloween soundtrack and just walk around your house at night.
No. No. Because he'll come out of any door.
It's horrible.
He'll be there.
It's horrible. Yeah. I've got no problem walking around my house at night, like getting up and to use the bathroom or coming downstairs to get a drink or whatever. Not a problem at all.
Not going to happen.
I'm not listening to something like that.
I'm not doing it.
Is an equally scary piece of music as well, if you ask me.
Tubular Bells.
Yeah. Which
is only played once in the whole film.
But it's got that link now.
It has that link, yeah. But the reason I was bringing up score was, but not on a tangent, but lovely video game collection here. I was just looking at the other day. I just look at it every now and then. Looking at the Silent Hills that I've got. All right. Now, the Silent Hill film, it's a pretty solid video game to horror film. It's not the best.
Watched it quite recently.
It's pretty good. But the games themselves are so unsettling with the sound design. Such industrial clunky sounds mixed with like scratching and grainy effects. It's that sort of unsettling music. I can't even call it music. Mm-hmm. Pieces of sound. That is scarier than like a tense build up of bassy music, and it's scary.
It's unpleasant noises.
Yeah,
you know? It's grinding of metal and squeaking and nails on a chalkboard kind of noises that we don't tend to like anyway.
It wasn't so much film, but that just relating to the score sort of thing, or that to take a little tangent, but that's sort of Silent Hill is very loosely, I won't say based, but inspired from Jacob's Ladder. Right. And Jacob's Ladder itself. Have you seen Jacob's Ladder?
Not for a long time. Not for a long time.
As well has some very unsettling pieces of music / audio, I'll say. But yeah, that can really do it. Rather than an orchestral piece that's trying to draw you into where the monster is, or that can. I feel like that can really do it. The other one thing, other than all that, oh shit, where did I put my notes? Is a scary thought of, what if I just woke up somewhere, then I have no idea what the hell I am? And the one film that did that for me, which Saw did it well, it's the first one. They wake up in this disgusting room, no windows, no doors, and what the fuck is going on? Because I'm much like Home Invasion. I'm sort of putting myself in their position, thinking, what if that was me? Like, it's really creepy. Is Cube, and I love Cube.
Yeah, I like Cube.
That is more so than Saw, because it's a room that is so unknown to you. You've never seen anything like this.
Dig that out at some point and watch that.
Yeah, it's nothing you would ever have imagined. If nothing you've ever seen before. There's no windows, there's no doors. You just wake up in this room.
Yeah, that's totally alien. Yeah.
It's alien. That's the word I was trying to think of.
It's an alien space. Yeah. I mean, Saw is obviously a horrible, disgusting, grimy.
It's a bathroom.
But it's a bathroom, recognizable as a bathroom. Cube is literally
that is scary. That thought, just the thought. Maybe not so much. The film is not scary, really, but it's the thought of it. And I try to think, like, put myself in that position and think, what if? And I think that is scary. That whole premise, the whole idea.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not something I mean, I can appreciate that it'd be scary. I don't know if I find that as unsettling as perhaps some of the other things we've talked about.
Oh yeah, it's a
But
personal thing.
yeah, I mean, one that got me when mentioning the Exorcist, and actually it fits in quite a lot of the other films we've mentioned, Wreck and such. Unnatural movement from people.
Yes.
So the spider walk down the stairs, any sort of jerky limb cracking. It's usually possession films that do this sort of thing. But any sort of unnatural movement or unnaturally quick movement as well. They tend to do that in a lot of paranormal films and they like to do it straight at the camera, which makes it more of a jump scare trope. But yeah, any sort of unnatural movement I always find really, really unsettling.
I guess just unnatural in general. Before you get to the even broader term of unnatural, which would be monsters, zombies, demons, and all that. But the unnatural, especially of a human, like you said, crab walking, it's very unnerving.
Yeah. I mean, it's things like that scare me. And I mean, well, talking about Wreck's one of the last films I think that apart from Paranormal Activity maybe that we've also mentioned, but I can distinctly remember feeling unsettled at the end when the credits were rolling, and that doesn't happen very often, and doesn't happen with a lot of modern horror films, which, as we found going back to my top 5 favorites, are all pre-84. But yeah, well, a lot of modern horror films tend to be a little bit lackluster, but Wreck and Paranormal Activity are two that stand out as being ones that, I kind of was left contemplating that at the end.
I feel like in the last couple of years, we've definitely had a resurgence of horror, especially last year. Killed for horror. It was great. But I think over the last decade, I'd say, for instance, you've got the horror films and franchises like the Conjuring franchise is massive, but it relies too much on jump scares because it feels that's what people like. They like to and then they laugh. Oh, it got me. Like, did it scare you though?
It's it does. It does in the moment, doesn't it? Because you're getting a physical reaction. You throw some popcorn over the person sitting behind you or whatever, and you get that kind of sting of embarrassment as well if you're watching it in the cinema or in, maybe a group or whatever, that something's made you jump, or at least I do. But yeah, it's not. I'm not walking out of anything like that and thinking I feel a bit uneasy. Like, let's get back in the house quick. It has only happened with a handful of films. Us, I think, sat with me for a while. The way that ends, because that's got a very bleak ending.
What do people say? Should we watch a scary film? Do you want to watch a scary film? It's like, when you really think about it, what do you class as a scary film? It's up to everyone's interpretation. It's
fears. That's the thing. Isn't it? Fears a subjective thing. I mean, Anaconda is probably a terrifying film if you've got a big phobia of snakes.
Yeah, arachnophobia.
Again, if you happen to have a particular phobia, then something as snakes on a plane, or I don't know, something relatively silly could be classed, as far as you're concerned, is a terrifying film. So it is very subjective, but I think, like I say, when I put the question out there on Twitter, it was to try and get a sense of overarching themes. And the main thing was tension. I think that came back as being the thing that pretty much what everybody said. We had a couple of people talking about not being able to escape from things or things happening in the home. There was a couple of people that mentioned background stuff and things sort of half insight. But more, I think near enough everybody mentioned tension and the build-up of tension. So yeah, it is difficult. I mean, somebody asked me for some recommendations, and I was like, well, they basically said that nothing scared them, and then so make me some recommendations. Like, well,
that's hard, isn't it?
How can I? You've just told me nothing scares you. How can I recommend?
I did see that
to
tweet.
Scare you?
I did see that tweet. Yeah.
I recommended the podcast. You should listen to the podcast and get a whole bunch of recommendations.
You'd be scared how professional it is.
But it is difficult to do a catch-all, a catch-all scary film for every. That's why I'm always dubious when you see this is the scariest film of the year, the scariest film in decades.
Didn't the Outwaters have? Did it have that on the marketing?
I think it did.
And the last one I remember having it was Blair Witch in 2016. It was originally called The Woods. They titled it The Woods, and then they finally released it. It was going to be called Blair Witch, which was the new sequel, and that marketing had scariest film ever. I'm just the balls to say that about your film before it's out. It is subjective, but you can't put that. You just can't do it.
No, you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't, because
you're building up expectations.
Far too much.
But then we look at classics, which people. I don't want to. I don't want to be this person, I'm going to be this person, and I'm sorry, everyone, but. Normies, okay, not like us. the normies out there. When you say,
the squares,
the squares out there, you non-horror losers. Talk about scariest films ever. They go, oh god, The Exorcist, so scary. Texas Chainsaw, so scary. But to a modern audience, I don't think they would be. I think it's also a generational thing. When you look back at
possibly.
Like documentaries on, say, The Exorcist, and you see there's footage of the people about to throw up, they're passing out because they're so scared. You show that to a modern audience, I don't think they'd go into it feeling coming out as scared.
No, maybe not. I don't know. I always think The Exorcist is kind of scary though.
I agree,
because I think that's got
that's us
creep factor to it. But I mean, I can remember one of the last films that I can remember a lot of people saying it's scary. Oh my god, it's so scary. Was Hostel. And that film I was so disappointed when I saw Hostel, because so many people had sold it to me as being like this unwatchable. Like you'll lose your lunch. You'll faint. It's too graphic. It's too disgusting.
But that's not scary. Is a film being so graphic and disgusting scary, or is it just a turn off to people? But but that's the thing. You could say to people like, "Oh, it was so disgusting. I just felt quick." But were you scared by it? Did it make you feel uneasy and tense and a bit like jumpy? That's the thing.
I remember laughing.
Quite
a lot of it, to be honest.
Do you know what?
The
in that film,
scene just made me laugh.
Oh my god, the eyeballs! And then she jumped in front of a train. That film, it's not so much in a scary note, but like blood and guts, I can deal with, But it's the little things I do wince at. And Hostel has one where he gets his Achilles slit.
Yeah.
That will get me. Things like that, little wrist slits. Oh, things like that will. I struggle with.
Do you have, right? This is just it's kind of related, but separate to films. Do you have any weird, like, body phobias, like that you're gonna accidentally like catch yourself in your zipper or anything. But like I have a weird thing that I'll fall over and catch an eyelid on something.
Oh
So
god.
just imagine that it'd be the most unpleasant thing ever to just not your eye, but to just the eyelid.
Just the eyelid.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know why.
I think
But it's
for me it would be the wrists. I'm always very, because of what I do, it being a very labor intensive job. If I'm using like a Stanley blade or a scalpel and I'm gently, I'm thinking I'm gonna slip, and it's gonna burst it open. There's gonna be blood everywhere.
yeah. That kind
I
of
feel,
like irrational. That's the word I was
yeah,
looking for. Just that irrational. Like if you're carrying a tray, you're just gonna drop it randomly. Like,
yeah.
and there's no reason why you would, but you just think like I've got a tray full of drinks here, and I'm just gonna go.
Gonna drop it. Yeah, completely. Yeah, Hostel. I mean, I do remember that. I remember marketing for that. It being people, quote unquote, general, the ether, people in the ether, just oh god, you've got it's mental. It's just insane. Yeah, it's an Eli Roth film. It's.
I remember people saying it about Scream as well. To be fair, I remember people telling me Scream was the scariest thing they'd ever seen, and I was like what?
It's a murder mystery.
I've been watching.
It's a murder mystery. Who done it? That's all it is. And speaking of Scream, actually, you look at slashers. Predominantly, slashers aren't that scary.
No. I mean, you've usually got a bit of a build up, bit of a potential for jump scare sort of. I'm just trying to think. Friday the 13th slashers. Friday the 13th is always the first franchise that pops into my head when somebody says slasher.
The scariest Friday the 13th bit is the end of one, I'd say, when you've seen it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it coming.
Yeah, but yeah. And again, but that's a jump scare in it.
But it's not built up.
No.
Which is good.
In fact, it's silent, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It's entirely silent. Well, there's maybe some nice melodic music, but
yeah, she's in the boat. Everything's fine. Sloth comes out of the fucking lake and drags her.
Yeah, fact on last minute because they thought, I can get a sequel out of this.
Yeah, and the rest. But yeah, like slashers, it's predominantly. I think the scare aspect in horror nowadays has been taken over by the intense jump scares. Unfortunately, you get bleak horror films, and I think the one that sat with me recently was Speak No Evil. I was sad for a day after watching that. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and that's when the horror's done its job. That if I can keep thinking about it, I think the only film that did that to me before that would have been Martyrs.
Speak No Evil, yeah, that's on my list actually. I've not seen it yet.
Speak No Evil is fantastic. It's a very slow burn, but it's a rough one.
I'll watch that tomorrow over breakfast.
Oh, beautiful! That's a.
Oh yeah,
man.
Martyrs is again. It's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
And I think it was. So go on, after you.
For me, Martyrs falls down at the end a little bit. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly why. I think the final reveal of the premise, of the reasons for it all, is just a little bit too silly for me personally. Yeah. But up to that point, it's horrible. Yeah, it's horrific.
It is. I for me it was. I think it's down to. I feel like the acting of the two main girls is great, but it's the suffering they go through in the whole film. But yeah, that plus their acting. If their acting wasn't good, I wouldn't feel like this. But if their acting, I feel, was good, plus their suffering, it makes me just want to dive through the TV and help them. I feel helpless.
Yeah,
I feel like these could be two women I know down the street that have gone through this. I want to help them. I feel scared for them.
Yeah, well, I mean that actually leads on to what I was going to say. I mean the whole horror generally is real people in unreal situations, but
Yeah.
real horror is real people in real situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned Eden Lake.
Yeah.
That is again tense and nasty because it's very real. Things like that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been rewatching Inside Number 9 recently.
Oh, I saw your tweet about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a little bit obsessed with it again because I think it's such a fantastic series. But there's a couple of episodes of that. There's one in particular which does. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, it's it's an episode that mirrors the Joseph Fritzl case.
Oh,
I'll say that, and I won't say any more about it.
It's the only name you need to mention.
Yeah,
like, wow. God.
Which is an incredibly dark place to go for a comedy. For what's essentially a comedy program, it is Inside Number 9 is a horror comedy program, and that is it does go But the League of Gentlemen guys and all those people they've always sort of pushed the boundary of black comedy as far as it can go, and Inside Number 9 is no different, and it's brilliant. Everybody should watch it. So yeah, there is an episode. I'm not going to say which one. But there is an episode that has that element to it,
right?
But it's the normality of it. I mean, they do a bunch of episodes that are more traditional horror and a little so there's supernatural stuff going on and things like that. But there's a bunch of episodes that are about real people and other real people that are just horrible, and we have a lot of that in the world, unfortunately. There are, nasty people, serial killers, murderers, and things like that. And I think it's going back to what we were saying earlier about realism, and relatability. And yeah, films like Eden Lake and Martyrs to a certain extent.
I'd say the first half, at least.
It's an extreme version, but it could happen. People have been tortured and kept hostage, and these things unfortunately do go on in the world, which
I would say Speak No Evil falls into that category. And you'll find out.
Yeah, just kind of looking at it now. I'm on the IMDb page. I shouldn't be, just in case I see too much. But that is one that I've had on the list for a while. But yeah, I think that's something that's going to be time and again scary for everybody. Everybody's going to be more scared at a horror film where real people do real horrible things to each other more than a bunch of ghosts running around or a haunted sofa. I don't know, whatever. Monsters. Clowns.
I don't know. Now people are going to go finish this podcast. All the millions of people that listen to this podcast, and they go to their couch now and be a bit like, "Hang on a minute. Maybe I'll just sit on the floor. Maybe I'll just it's a bit too close to home."
But then the notion that your house is built on a cemetery, or the clown doll in your bedroom is going to strangle you in your sleep. Which would be terrifying if it happened. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's not scary, but the likelihood of that happening to any one of us is minimal.
My last actual note I've got here: inanimate objects do not scare me. And talk about the clown, poltergeist. Like, it goes back to Chucky when I originally said that. I never got Chucky. I never got the scare appeal. I never got it being horror. And that was from when I first watched it. God knows how long ago. And I had a much more appreciation for it when we rewatched it and did the episode. But inanimate objects themselves, it just doesn't... nothing. I get nothing from them.
Yeah.
Because it's not so close to the zombie aspect, but it's not real. It's It's made of plastic. It's made of a material. Like, it's not a living organism.
Yeah. Oh, actually, just as a side note, because we were trying to think of other killer doll films, there is a movie called Dolls, which is about a bunch of those sort of porcelain,
like marionette dolls.
No, they're like Victorian dolls, 1987. There's a scene in that with like a bunch of those sort of porcelain Victorian little girl dolls.
Oh, I see now. Oh god! One's got a skull inside of it.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I thought,
they're
I'm gonna
horrible.
have to dig that.
They are horrible.
Which I think came out. Was it just before Child's Play? I think 87.
Yeah.
Off topic here, but
no.
Yeah. Year before Child's Play was 88.
One of them looks like a Punch and Judy doll.
Yeah, it does. So I need to find that movie now, just as a little side note.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're done
I know
right,
what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's like, yeah, I wasn't suggesting that is scary, because I agree with you. Like I say, Child's Play scared the shit out of me as a kid, but I was 7 years old or whatever, and there was a melted plastic horrific looking thing running around.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing. I mean, you know, again, if something like that in a movie scares me, it's because it's been a jump scare, you know. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you're suddenly, I mean, my cat jumps on the sofa, and if I'm not paying attention and he suddenly jumps into my lap, it's gonna scare me. But I'm not genuinely afraid of my cat. It's just being shocked. You know, a car backfiring in the street can give you the same effect. It doesn't make it scary.
No, you're completely right. It is down to the jump scares now. That's what will predominantly scare people, I think. And what you mentioned about your fear. If you have a real deep fear about something, whether it be a snake or spider, and then that is portrayed as the horrific aspect of the film, that's gonna scare you.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it is. Well, especially when it seems us both. It's more, rather than the word scary, it's more unease, unsettling, uncomfortable, bleak, disturbing, rather than heavens to Betsy, I'm so scared, I'm so startled.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is. It's that lingering. It's the lingering dread, the lingering feeling of unease, is rather than a sharp, quick shock that, you know, flash in the pan.
I knew it would be a vague topic. But that's good. It's great.
But I mean, I don't have any phobias. I don't know about you. I don't.
Heights. That's about it. I'm not good with heights. Maybe. I'm not good with heights.
I'm not great with heights. If I'm unsecured, like I can ride roller coasters all day, that doesn't bother me. But top balcony of a tower block, I'm probably going to stay inside. I don't. But yeah. But apart from that, like I'm fine with spiders, creepy crawlies, you know, rats, snakes, anything else. I don't particularly have any phobias like that you know, that are likely to come up as sort of antagonists in horror films.
No, I'm exactly the same. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head anything that would really spark a fear like that in a film. I think we're coming towards the end of it now. Probably because we're both really tired and we want to go to bed.
No. I mean, I think, you know, we should probably, if you're going to talk about what does scare people or us, we should talk about what doesn't as well. Just get that balance. And you know.
But I come back to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I always come back to that because what we've already discussed and repeating the gritty graininess realism of it, that how it doesn't feel like a film.
No.
It's a scary setting. It's a scary atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be scared again watching it, obviously, because I know what's coming.
Interestingly, with that in particular, although we've repeatedly said going through this, it's like it's realism and it's got that link to, like, the likelihood of getting kidnapped by a family of cannibals is pretty slim.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say never, but it's pretty slim. But it does have that realism. It is the realism, even though it's kind of an unreal situation. I guess it's the way it's presented. And talking about people not like bleak endings, like you get most of the time at the end of a horror film or a slasher film or a horror film of any sort of genre, somebody will get away, and you get this sense that, like, oh, I'm glad that's over. Like, it's not portrayed.
It's a relief.
Yeah. That they've had a bit of a bad do, but they're probably going to be all right going forward. Whereas Sally laughing hysterically in the back of that pickup truck, you get an impression that she's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, it screams PTSD, which is the reality of escaping from a situation like that, is that you're not going to shrug it off and be fine.
That last scene is iconic. It's I fucking love that film so much.
And again, another reason why it's really good is that the enemy, the Leatherface, doesn't get killed.
Nope.
The family don't. They're still there, out there doing their thing. So
it ends with him dancing.
The next people to come along looking for directions or whatever are probably going to get it. You know, how many times does Jason get put in the ground and then come back? That doesn't happen in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, I mean, the family, they die in the second film. They actually get wiped out in the second film. Second film I love the second film.
I have seen the second one. The second one's the only sequel I've seen, actually.
The second one with Bill Moseley, one of my favourite horror actors. Love Bill Moseley. It's Chop Top. The third film has Viggo Mortensen in it. It's
really,
yeah. It's not great. Oh, and Ken Foree from Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
The fourth film, oh man, The Next
That's
Generation.
The Harrelson one, isn't it?
No, it's Matthew McConaughey.
Sorry.
Matthew McConaughey, Renee Zellweger. That's just fun. There's nothing scary about that film. Matthew McConaughey turns it up to 11, and it's amazing. But I digress. Yes, the first film. Oh, again, it's so fucking good. I could talk about it for so long, but not at 20 to 11 in the evening. Do you have much else you wanted to mention, or?
I don't actually. I think that kind of covers it, really. I mean, just as by way of summary, like, what scares me in horror is realistic situations.
Yeah.
Is probably what scares me the most. But yeah,
and a bit of the paranormal, bit of the tension with paranormal.
There are other elements, but you know, I think if I had to pick one thing, then some sort of relatable realism, tapping into a real fear, you know.
Yeah. But
what's going to do it?
With the paranormal side being something you cannot see, more so rather than, oh, here's a spooky ghost in front of me. Something you cannot see that you have no control over. That, like we said, Paranormal Activity. That's
Yeah, which again, if you want to like jump back into it for a second, I think if ghosts were real, if ghosts
Yeah.
are real,
Yeah.
then it is going to be subtle shadows in the corner. It is
Mm.
going to be things just suddenly falling over. It's not going to be. I mean, have a look at the ghost in Mama. Like,
I'll do it now.
it's like a wedding dress with a spooky wig on. It's just, you know what I mean? It's not going to be Slimer from the Ghostbusters whizzing round.
Bloody hell. Why do ghosts... That's a stupid question. Why do ghosts look like that? Why are ghosts portrayed to look like that in everything?
Yeah, that's...
And why do they always, when they want to come at you and just open their mouth really long and scream and shout in your face? Why? I don't get that trope.
Yeah. No, I don't either. But there we go. Like I say, if it's not, it's gonna go down more like it does in Paranormal Activity, where you're not really gonna see anything. It's
just like in The Exorcist, actually. You just reminded me. When the pastor he sits down next to Reagan.
Oh yes.
And the drawer, she just opens the drawer. Simple. Simple.
I am gonna have to watch The Exorcist again.
That is, and watch Exorcist 3, folks. People always forget about Exorcist 3. One of the best jump scares in all of horror in Exorcist 3.
He asks her, doesn't he, if she did that.
Yeah. But there's no music, there's no tension, it's just happens. It's creepy. Anyway. What a discussion. This is going to be one of the longest episodes, I think, in the whole of the podcast history, but it's been awesome.
As ever. Always good.
Yeah.
I like having these freestyle sessions where we're not just pinned to one film and we can.
I think we'll try and get it once a month. Once a month we'll get one in. Because there you go. You can come up with the topic for the next month. There we go.
Fair enough.
So Stina, I mean, speaking of, if you've made it this far, folks, you'll now hear the schedule, even though I'll put it on Instagram and all the other places. January's done. January's been awesome. Me and T did 2022 catch up, sort of. Then we did your first film, your intro, Child's Play. We then did a lovely little film called Cannibal Holocaust. And now this. It's been a good month. Next month and next week is my choice for film. And I'm going to say what it is now. It's a Turkish horror from 2015.
You do have to tell me what it is.
I'm going to tell you. We are going to be doing Baskin. This is a film I have had on my radar since it got released, and I've never got around to seeing it. I would not read. In fact, read the premise if you can. And watch the trailer when you can. It to me looked absolutely insane, and it could be bad. It could be good. I don't. 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, whatever.
80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I've been intrigued by this ever since it came out, and I've been wanting to watch it, and now I have a reason. And we're going to discuss it. Whether it be good or bad, it doesn't matter, but we'll discuss it.
It sounds good. I'm just seeing a little.
I'm always intrigued by someone's creative interpretation of what hell is. The best one for me will always be the Barlow's Inferno book, which is about £600. But anyone's interpretation of hell that's rather not just lake of fire, a devil pointing your ears and pitchfork. No. I'm always intrigued by that.
I like Hellraiser 2 with the light boxes coming in and out of archways and weird.
And the David Bowie labyrinth maze. Yeah. Exactly. So very intrigued to see how this portrays it.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm liking the sound of this, and just as a little extra sort of cherry on the cake, related searches, people have also looked for Creep and Eden Lake. Which two films I do really like. So,
are we talking London Underground Creep, or are we talking
London Underground Creep? Yeah. Yes,
with Craig.
Yeah.
Because I do want to see the new Creep, which is meant to be fantastic. It's meant to be a POV horror film. Came out a few years back.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. I think I've seen that.
So yeah, first week of February, Baskin. And then as we celebrate Valentine's Day, we'll be looking at Valentine, the lovely early 2000s slasher
I'm
with
really
Angel.
looking forward to that.
That's going to be a fun one.
I am genuinely looking forward to that. And and as we just again as a little side note, Tom and I were talking about this the other night, and we've coined the term hot topic horror.
Yeah,
because of the soundtrack.
Oh my god!
Many of the soundtracks of many of these early 2000 slasher films, of which there are a few, all feature some sort of nu metal band, if not 90% of the soundtrack being nu metal.
You know, that may be the nu metal cast. That may be the nu metal cast at that episode. Yeah.
Baskin's on Amazon. Excellent.
Perfect. And then we'll follow up, as you mentioned earlier, in February with The Wicker Man. Finally, I get to watch it. And we'll finish off February with whatever you come up with.
I will have a think over the next couple of days, and I'll let you know.
February's looking good. Nice alternatives sprinkled all around. All right, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go to bed. Folks, you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, YouTube, all by searching the Dreadcast. Please do give it a thumbs up, rate, share, like, all that jazz. Do comment on the YouTube stuff, whatever you want to do. Just give it all the thumbs up in whatever way you want.
It. Share with your friends, let other people know, and give Tom and myself a follow on Twitter. And, let us know. Let us know what you think. What scares you? What doesn't scare you? Recommend some horror films. Let's just have a chat. Open me up to the wider world.
That's it. Let's have a chat. That's the best. That's the part. That's the key bit. Let's have a chat about horror. Yeah, but I think that's all of it. I think that's it.
I think so. Until next time, folks.
Stay spooky.
Stay spooky.